Welcome to the AgroScience AI podcast. In today's episode, race microbiomes, tiny allies for a hungry world. We're taking a deep dive into something pretty amazing, the world of microbes that live in and around rice plants.
It's a hidden world
Okay.
that's absolutely essential to how we grow food,
Wow.
especially rice.
So you're telling me that these tiny microbes, things we can't even see, could be the answer to growing more rice sustainably
Absolutely.
as our planet faces some serious challenges like climate change and dwindling resources.
What's fascinating here is that we've been so focused on the rice plant itself that we've overlooked this vast and incredibly powerful network of microbes living in the soil, on the plant, even inside it.
So where do we even begin? It seems like a whole other universe down there.
Think of it this way. There are bustling neighborhoods all around the rice plant.
Ooh, I like that.
Each with its own unique set of microbial residents.
Microbial neighborhoods. That makes it much easier to visualize. So tell me more about these neighborhoods.
First, we have the rhizosphere, which is the soil zone right around the rice plant's roots.
Okay.
It's like a microbial metropolis, and bacteria are the stars of the show.
So what kinds of bacteria are we talking about? Are they all friendly?
Well, there's a lot of diversity.
Right.
But proteobacteria are kind of the mayors of this rhizosphere city.
Okay.
And yes, many of them are beneficial to the rice plant. But here's the thing.
Okay.
The exact mix of bacteria can change.
Oh, wow.
Depending on factors like which variety of rice is being grown and even the farming techniques used.
So the way we farm actually shapes the microbial community. This is pretty wild.
Absolutely. Then there's the phyllosphere, which is the world above ground.
Okay.
The leaves and stems of the rice plant. It's a more open and dynamic environment compared to the soil.
So more of a transient population, maybe some tourists passing through.
Exactly. You've got beneficial microbes, those that are just hanging out, and even some that can cause disease. And this community is constantly changing depending on things like weather, altitude, even the wind.
It's like a microbial Grand Central Station.
And finally, we have the most exclusive neighborhood of all, the endosphere. These are the microbes that live inside the rice plant's tissues.
So the real VIPs, the ones with backstage passes.
Precisely.
Yeah.
These are mostly endophytes, microbes that spend most of their lives inside the plant.
Okay.
And studies have shown that the types of endophytes present can actually vary depending on where the rice is grown.
Okay.
Even within the same country, and this can affect the yield.
Wow. So even within the plant itself, there's a whole lot of microbial diversity going on. But let's get to the good stuff. What can these microbes actually do for the rice plant?
Well, for starters, we've known for decades that some bacteria can help rice plants access nitrogen, which is a crucial nutrient for growth.
But isn't that something we usually associate with legumes, those plants that have special nodules on their roots?
You're right.
That house nitrogen-fixing bacteria. Rice doesn't have those, does it?
It doesn't.
Okay.
But it turns out that rice has its own ways of partnering with nitrogen-fixing bacteria, even without those classic nodules.
Interesting.
And there's a really interesting story about how a technique called the system of rice intensification, or SRI, actually boosts these beneficial bacteria in the soil.
Okay, I've heard of SRI, but I don't know much about it.
Yeah.
What is it, and how does it relate to these nitrogen-fixing bacteria?
SRI involves using less water, planting seedlings further apart, and using organic fertilizers instead of chemical ones.
Gotcha.
And research in Madagascar found that SRI significantly increased the number of a particular bacteria called azospirillum in rice roots.
Wait, so just by changing the way we grow rice, we can encourage the growth of beneficial microbes?
Exactly. And the best part is that those SRI rice plants had yields that were double, sometimes even triple.
Wow.
Compared to conventionally grown rice.
Okay, that's impressive. But how does it actually work? How are these microbes boosting plant growth?
That's where things get really exciting.
Okay.
We're now entering the era of omics, which allows us to study things like genes and proteins on a massive scale.
So we're zooming in and seeing how these microbes interact with rice plants at a molecular level.
You got it.
Okay.
And what we're finding is incredible.
Really?
Take, for example, Rhizobium mellilati 2021.
Okay.
This bacterial strain actually changes protein production in the rice plant, leading to better photosynthesis and more efficient nutrient transport.
Hold on, you're telling me this bacteria is basically rewiring the rice plant to be more efficient?
In a sense, yes.
Wow.
It's a very specific effect triggered by the interaction between that particular microbe and the rice plant.
That's mind-blowing.
Oh.
And are there other examples of this kind of targeted action?
Oh, there are tons. There's a fungus called Phomopsis liquidambarus, that actually turns up the volume on the genes responsible for nutrient uptake.
Wow.
So the rice plant gets better at absorbing things like nitrogen, phosphorus, zinc, iron, you name it.
It's like these microbes are personal trainers for the rice plant, pushing them to perform at their best.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And then there's Trichoderma asperellum SL2, which is a real superstar.
Okay.
This fungus enhances everything from germination to yield, and it even influences genes for stress tolerance and tillering.
Wait, tillering, what's that?
Tillering is how rice plants branch out and produce more stems, which ultimately leads to more rice grains.
So this one fungus is helping the rice plant grow stronger, produce more, and even withstand stress. It sounds like we've struck gold.
It certainly seems that way.
Yeah.
And we're only just scratching the surface of what these microbial communities can do. But we should probably talk about the elephant in the room.
Okay.
What about diseases? How can these microbes help rice plants fight off the bad guys?
Yeah, that's a good point. We know how much damage those chemical pesticides can cause, both to the environment and to human health. Are you saying microbes could be the answer?
They absolutely could be. You see, microbes offer a natural defense system.
Right.
Acting like the rice plant's own personal army.
Oh, right.
They can boost the plant's immunity and even directly target pathogens.
So we're talking about a more targeted, eco-friendly approach to pest control.
Exactly. And when it comes to fungal diseases, Trichoderma species are like all-star athletes.
Okay.
They can tackle major fungal foes like sheath, blight rice blast, and brown spot.
Wow. So it sounds like Trichoderma is like a superhero of the microbial world.
It really is.
Yeah.
And what about bacterial diseases? Are there any microbial allies on that front?
Yeah, that's a good question. It seems like bacteria are often the culprits, not the heroes.
Absolutely. Burkholderia amyloleukophasations, for instance, produces antibiotics that specifically target the bacteria behind leaf blight and leaf streak.
It's incredible how these microbes have evolved such specialized defenses. But let's not forget about the big picture climate change. We're seeing more droughts, increased salinity, and heavy metal contamination, all of which can devastate rice crops. Can microbes help with that too?
That's where they really shine. Microbes can equip rice plants to handle these tough conditions, allowing them to survive and even thrive in environments that would otherwise be impossible. Let's start with drought. There's Trichoderma harzianum, which we've already seen is a multi-talented fungus.
Right.
Well, it also improves water use efficiency, boosts photosynthesis, and even protects cell membranes from drought damage.
So this one fungus is like a drought survival kit for the rice plant.
That's a great way to put it. And research using gene analysis has actually shown that this fungus activates hundreds of genes related to drought tolerance.
Hundreds of genes.
Yeah.
That's an army of defenses. But what about salty conditions? Can microbes help with that too?
You bet.
Okay.
Trichoderma harzianum once again comes to the rescue. It helps the rice plant maintain water balance in salty conditions so photosynthesis can continue even when things get tough.
Seriously. This fungus is like a Swiss Army knife of plant protection.
It really is.
Wow.
But what about heavy metal contamination, which is such a growing problem? Can these tiny microbes tackle something that big?
I'm almost afraid to ask, but is Trichoderma going to be the hero again?
Well, Trichoderma does play a role, but this time it's joined by a real heavy hitter, Cupriovitis taiwanensis.
Oh, okay.
This incredible bacterium actually transforms toxic cadmium into a harmless form, preventing it from accumulating in the rice plant.
That's like having a tiny hazmat team working at the root level.
It's a great visual, and both Trichoderma and Pseudomonas species have also been shown to help rice plants cope with cadmium contamination, allowing them to grow even in polluted soils.
This is all so fascinating. We've got disease fighters, stress survivors, growth boosters, and it all comes down to microbes.
It's a testament to the incredible diversity and power of the rice microbiome.
Yeah.
And remember, we've only just begun to scratch the surface of what's possible.
Right.
There's so much more to discover and learn about this hidden world.
This is definitely blowing my mind. I think we all need a moment to digest all this amazing information.
I agree. We've covered a lot of ground, but there's still so much more to explore. It really is a fascinating area of research. And as we delve deeper into the rice microbiome, we start to see that it's not just about individual microbes,
Right.
but about how they all work together as a community.
So it's not just about finding the superstar microbe, it's about understanding the whole team dynamic.
Exactly. Think of it like an orchestra.
Okay.
You need all the different instruments playing in harmony to create beautiful music.
Right.
In the same way, a diverse and balanced microbial community is key for a healthy and productive rice plant.
Okay, diversity is important. But how do scientists even begin to study these complex interactions? It seems incredibly challenging.
It is, but that's where omics technologies are revolutionizing our understanding.
Okay.
These tools allow us to analyze things like genes, proteins, and metabolites
Wow.
on a massive scale, giving us a snapshot of what's happening within these microbial communities.
So it's like having a high-powered microscope that lets us zoom in on the molecular conversations happening between microbes and the rice plant.
Precisely. By eavesdropping on these conversations, we can start to figure out which microbes are essential for specific functions, how they interact with each other, and how we might even manipulate these communities to our advantage.
So it's like we're learning the language of the rice microbiome. And once we're fluent, we can start writing our own scripts for better rice production.
You've got it. This knowledge could be crucial for developing tailored microbial communities for specific rice varieties and growing conditions.
Wow.
Imagine designing custom probiotics for rice fields.
Okay, now that is seriously cool. But how realistic is this? Are we talking science fiction? Or is this something that could actually happen in the foreseeable future?
We're still in the early stages, but the progress is incredibly promising.
Okay.
Researchers are identifying key microbial players, uncovering the molecular mechanisms behind those beneficial interactions and developing the tools to analyze and manipulate these communities.
So we're putting the pieces of the puzzle together.
Exactly. And the more we learn, the closer we get to harnessing the full potential of the rice microbiome. It's an exciting journey of discovery.
Yeah.
And every new insight brings us closer to a future where rice fields are teeming with these microscopic allies, helping us feed a growing world sustainably.
This brings up an interesting question for our listeners. What role can they play in all of this? I mean, it's not just up to scientists and labs, right?
You're absolutely right. This is a global challenge, and it requires a global effort. Consumers can make informed choices, supporting farmers who are adopting sustainable practices, and advocating for policies that prioritize research and innovation in this field.
It's a reminder that even small actions can have a ripple effect. And by understanding the power of the rice microbiome, we can all contribute to a more sustainable and food-secure future.
Before we wrap things up, I have one final thought-provoking question for our listeners to ponder. We've talked about how microbes can help rice plants survive and thrive in challenging conditions, like drought salinity and heavy metal contamination.
Yeah.
But what if we could go a step further?
Okay.
What if we could use microbes to actually remediate these environmental problems, cleaning up polluted soils and restoring damaged ecosystems?
Wow, that's a really powerful idea, using microbes to heal the planet.
It's a frontier ripe with possibilities, and it's something we'll be exploring in greater depth in our next deep dive. But for now, let's recap what we've learned about the amazing world of the rice microbiome.
We've learned so much in this deep dive. It's amazing to think that these tiny organisms we can't even see play such a vital role in feeding the world.
It really highlights the interconnectedness of life on Earth, and it's a powerful reminder that sometimes the smallest things can have the biggest impact.
That's pretty incredible. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the rice microbiome, what are the key takeaways for our listeners? What do you hope they remember from this episode?
Well, I hope this episode has helped shift our listeners' perspective on rice production. It's not just about the plant itself, but about the entire ecosystem it's a part of, including those amazing microbes that are crucial for its health and productivity.
It's about working with nature, not against it.
Exactly. And this is a field of ongoing research and discovery. The more we learn about the rice microbiome, the better equipped we'll be to harness its power for good.
We've only just begun to explore this hidden world.
And remember, we all have a role to play in supporting this research and promoting sustainable farming practices. Whether it's the choices we make as consumers or the policies we advocate for, we can all contribute to a future where rice fields are teeming with these microbial allies, helping us feed a growing world in a way that's good for the planet.
So to our listeners, we encourage you to share your thoughts and questions with us on social media using #RiceMicrobiome. We're eager to continue this conversation and explore the future of this exciting field together.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the fascinating world of rice microbiomes.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those questions coming.